Hey guys, welcome to the Save Community Podcast, where every week we get together and talk about video games and video game related stuff. I'm Shanae Howard, and with me is Ryan Robinson.
Hey, how's it going? This is Ryan Robinson, the Save Continue podcast here in sunny California. It's 69 degrees at 4:20 a.m.
Nice. Just us two this week, and so it kind of leads us to the beginning. What have you been playing? What have you been doing?
Dude, okay, so I have some news. I have been successful in securing a PlayStation 5. Um,
Is it in your grasp
it is
yet,
it is
or is
not
it
it
on
is,
the way?
it is not currently in my possession. Okay, but I have an order number. Okay, and so I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting on it to happen. So one of my initial fears, because this was I think this was like 4 or 5 days ago when this happened.
I thought you would say 420 again.
uh, I blazed it, but so basically, I'm in a Discord with my wife and I are in a Discord with a few friends, and one of the friends in that Discord has been very good about every time a restock announcement pops up on Twitter, he immediately like lets us know about it.
That's a
And
good friend to have.
yeah, so and the last and obviously the last few times that we tried, it just didn't work out. We tried going through Sony Direct, and they do it to where like if you go to their page, then like there's a countdown. So if you go to the page before the countdown expires, you will get a random place in the queue, and then so
Mm,
you have a just as good a chance as anyone else of getting a chance to buy one. So that never worked out, right? And
no,
so he
not unless you got bots.
yeah, yeah. Well, it even I think even well, I don't know. I don't really know enough about that
I
stuff
mean,
to
I mean,
say,
like,
but
I'm assuming it's similar to like shoe drops and other stuff, where if make bots or get a way to have multiple places in line,
yeah,
then yeah.
yeah. So that didn't work out like at all. And then so like on the day of he let us know that there was that Walmart was having a restock. So um I immediately went like both my wife and I both immediately went in and tried to order it. The first time I tried it, I didn't know where the continue button was, and so I couldn't proceed. The second
It
time,
gave up.
the second time, I actually got it in the cart, but the continue button wasn't loading. So then
Mm,
by the time it did pop up, then it told me that it was sold out, and I was like, well, god damn it. And then
I hate that.
yeah, and then the
It's
third
like it was in my cart. You
yeah
can't take things out of my cart in a real
yeah.
store.
And so then the third time we tried it, and then it was telling my wife that it was sold out. And I was like, and it wasn't even loading for me, so I was like, well, I mean, if it's sold out for you, it's sold out for me. But you know what? I'm just gonna try it just to do it. And then I got through it, and then it said, "Thank you for your order." And then so our Walmart account is tied to her email address. So she checked her email, and they emailed her an order confirmation, and they did a
Sounds legit to me.
yeah.
Sounds like you own a PS5 now.
Yeah, uh so now it's just waiting. It looks like it's gonna be a little while before they actually ship it. But I mean, now I can stop trying and but in the meantime, I've been playing Persona 5 Royal, which I have just finished the wait. I've just finished Futaba's Palace, which is the pyramid
Nice.
with all the Egyptian stuff.
Yeah, Sakura, like it is Sakura Futaba, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's her own little mindscape.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. No, what do you think about that weeb?
Okay, so I'm about at the point I'm at when I stopped playing the vanilla version of the game. So I'm pretty much I'm almost right there. But I think that in the couple of years that it's been since I played that portion, because I think like the way I think um, about childhood trauma and things like that has changed in the last couple of years, and so like revisiting that part of the story was like I was like, oh man, I feel so bad for her because this is really fucked up. Um,
Shit's fucked up. It starts off with like Anne's best friend getting sexually harassed
yeah,
and all of
so
that.
that yeah that the game doesn't like the game doesn't really waste any time with immediately getting dark. But it does a good job of also providing about of balancing that with a good amount of levity. And I've gotten to the point where when I talk about that game, people talk about how much they hate Ryuji, and I'm here to say that Ryuji is my friend, and I love him.
It's Ryuji. He's a good boy. He does his best. Is he the most useful? Not always.
Yeah,
No.
I
But
mean, look,
that's not his fault. His
he's
character was made that way.
he's not look Ryuji's not very bright. He's not very bright. He's very emotional, but you know what? He's loyal and he tries hard all of the time. And I kind of wish Morgana would chill out on calling him an idiot all the time because it's starting to piss me off. But
Morgana's a bit of a jerk, to be honest.
yeah,
But but
Morgana is constantly radiating nice guy vibes. So it just but uh,
I, but also whoever does not like Ryuji, come at me. He immediately is down. Someone's hurt. Let's do this shit. Like he's down to ride. Like he's
yeah,
down for everything. He's such a good boy.
yeah, he's a really good kid. Also, my I've been watching my wife play a lot of Children of Morta. I don't know if you've heard of that.
That sounds really familiar, but I don't have any frame of reference. So
So
no, I don't know it.
basically, it's kind of a roguelike with that's it's got a narrative that's about this family. What's the family's name? It's about this family named the Bergsons, and they are tasked with stopping some kind of encroaching darkness, and and it's just the story from what I've observed so far. It like focuses a lot on death and rebirth, and also like familial ties and closeness and affection and love between family members and stuff like that. So it seems really neat. And it has like different characters, different members of the family have different skills that in battle. So each of them plays differently, and it appears that the game in some ways forces you to play different ones by some kind of fatigue system. So one family member gets tired, so you got to choose another one. But it looks cool so far, and I'd like to.
People need their naps.
Yeah, sometimes they do. I've also been playing a game called Curse of the. I think it's what is it called? Curse of the Dead Gods. I think I can't remember what it is exactly. Let me actually find out. Hey, do you have my
Also
Curse?
doing that.
Oh yeah,
I did.
Curse of the Dead Gods. Got it.
Yeah, no, you got it.
Uh,
Sorry, I was gonna ask if you watched the Monster Hunter Direct, but no, keep going with the Curse of Gods.
uh, so basically, it's another. It's a. So I'm gonna tell you right now that this is. I don't know what suddenly has me interested in playing all these roguelikes, but um, it's basically like it's one of those games that like it brushes kind of up against that eldritch horror shit that people call Lovecraftian. Uh, like it has a lot of that sort of vibe to it. Um,
Yeah, it's like Eldritch horror meets cosmic
yeah,
horror. Then that's Lovecraft. So,
yeah.
so I mean, like, even though he's a racist and a bad guy,
So
people do know what you mean by the term.
we'll see. I said a few maybe a couple of months ago that instead of saying Lovecraftian when I'm referring to any kind of fiction that possesses those qualities, I think just Eldritch horror is fine for me because I don't have to say his name. And then I reserve saying Lovecraftian for anything in the world, literary or otherwise, that I observe to be racist. So, um, so if I say
Reclaim that reclaim that
yeah,
term.
yeah, I will do what I
Uh,
can to like run that man's name further into the mud. But
I mean, like Lovecraft. country and other places are doing a good job. They're
Yeah,
putting the word out there. I also just really like the term cosmic horror. I think that that's a good
it
term.
just sounds cooler than Lovecraftian, honestly. And
Yeah, like
also like naming an entire genre after like maybe he like okay, let's say he invented it or whatever, but he's also like the worst writer in the genre, so he doesn't get to have it anymore. So um
I haven't read a whole bunch of his stuff to really speak upon that for myself. Like I've read Dakin and I think like one other short story. So like even then, like I don't even really know what Cthulhu is. I know he's like the big eldritch god. It does not matter. Not the
yeah,
point. Uh, but yeah, I feel you on that.
yeah,
I
it's
also I also just don't know Lovecraft enough to say something is like Lovecraftian unless it is like to use that term how like colloquially like how other people do. Like unless it is for sure like based off Lovecraft and I know this.
yeah. So I the way I've seen people being using it is that is if it has tentacles in it and people are going crazy in it, then it's Lovecraft. That's what people that's how people always use it. But this game is actually like it's pretty cool. So um, you're familiar with Dead Cells? Like you've played it?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I haven't played it, but I'm
Okay.
familiar with it, yes.
So it's kind of in some ways like that, where like you go from room to room, like you're fighting bad guys, and like sometimes in a room you can like boost your attributes or find a new weapon, stuff like that. The thing about going from room to room is in order to open the door to the next room, um, your character has to take a little bit more of a curse into himself, and that kind of and then so as that curse level builds, then you'll have more debilitating effects levied out on your character, and those things are procedurally generated. So sometimes like you'll take more damage, where sometimes you'll have a harder time perceiving when an enemy is going to attack you, things like that.
Kind of like with Darkest Dungeon, if the insanity or like you might prevail sort of thing, like it's
Yeah,
different things that it does. Yeah.
yeah. So it's got a neat little mechanic to its combat. So basically, the more enemies you can kill uh, consecutively without getting hit, and without this little timer ticking down, like the more money you gain or gold you gain from killing enemies. Um, and
You do like combos.
yeah,
So I mean
yeah, I do.
this is kind of like, oh, roguelike
Yeah,
pose?
but it's like it's also really hard because I don't know if it's just me, but I have a hard time with because like especially when there's like more than like 3 or 4 enemies on the screen, I have a hard time figuring out who's about to attack me because one on one you can see like the little indicator that that
Mm.
pops up when they're about to attack you, but like when you're focusing on one guy, it's kind of hard to see that another guy's about to hit you, and but like you have like you can
Is
parry
there ways
attacks.
to like is there ways to like crowd control so that would be easier in the rooms that you're in?
And that really depends on like the kind. It depends on like what's in the room. Like some rooms have traps that you can use to your advantage, but sometimes you have like a weapon that has like a wide, like has like a wide attack radius.
Mm.
And so as your like your loadout is basically you have your main weapon, you have your secondary weapon, and the main weapon from what I've seen is usually like throwing knives or swords or things like that. And secondary weapons I've seen range like from pistols to whips to shields, things like that. And you can kind of mix and match those as you find different weapons. But the game,
Do it only shield and bullwhip. That's all I want.
I mean, if I do it, but like it doesn't ever seem to like it doesn't ever seem to put those two things together for me. And I think and so the last game that I've been playing, well, one of the other games I've been playing is this game called West of Dead. Elevator pitch. It's basically like if you took I would say that Curse of the Dead Gods is similar to Dead Cells, but I would say I would say West of Dead is literally Dead Cells if you made it isometric and added cover based shooting instead of melee combat to it. Um, and it's neat. It actually works really well. You play it and like you play as this undead cowboy who is trying to find his way to the afterlife because he's stuck in purgatory, Wyoming, which is like
Oh,
yeah. So
which is the same thing as Purgatory, yes.
yeah, but it is neat though because like one of the things that I like about it is that the shooting is really fun and like going from cover to cover, it feels really good. The challenge does ramp up as you get deeper into like these dungeons and stuff, but it always does like it does feel responsive and really fun. And also your character is voiced by Ron Perlman, who I
Nice.
feel like that's really awesome. And
Yeah, and if I have to listen to like a voice for hours and hours, I
yeah,
would pick Ron Perlman
it's
out of the like, if that was an option. I'm like, yeah, no, that's what I want.
yeah, it's really neat, and it's got like a really neat vibe to it. It's got like kind of like a weird, almost comic book look to it. Um, so it's really cool. And I think and the last game I've been playing is this game called Valheim. I don't know if I mentioned it on the show before.
I think
Uh,
you have.
yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Valheim is just open world kind of survival slash crafting game.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah. Um, that game is I honestly don't know if I have the mind for these kind of games because it's really tough to like because it wants you to like account for like structural integrity of your house. Like if you build your house the wrong way, then a strong gust of wind could blow that shit over. Or if you build it like with a weak foundation, then it might fall over depending on what's in the house. And so um,
Oh, that sounds like my kind of shit. Very.
yeah,
Oh, is it tedious? Oh, love that.
yeah, and
Love it.
if and I know that you've been, and as far as I don't think that it's gonna come out anywhere besides computer, but like the game definitely has the look of a late era PlayStation One game, but but it really works. It works for the game, and I think that like the overall kind of tone and vibe of the game is lent better to that, but it's really cool and like so I mean the system requirements are like super low, so I would basically like most anybody who has a computer can probably load it up and play it. It's really neat. It's only like it's crazy because the game is huge and has all these systems to it. Like it has all these systems with the crafting and the combat and like leveling your stats. Like it accounts for stats that I never even think about. Like you have a stat for how good you can jump, how well you can run, how well you can chop down trees, and it has all these other different stats. And like all this stuff in the game is like within like a 1 gigabyte file size, which is nuts to me. Like I don't remember the last time I played a game that was like that was as small as that. But the game is huge. It keeps like
I mean,
expanding on itself.
gra
So
I mean, if you got PlayStation 1 era graphics, it makes it a little bit easier.
yeah, and I think
And also, like, if you're doing going to a game with that many metrics and like percentages and things that you need to like pay attention to, I feel like the crowd that's in like that is like I love this shit does not give a shit about the graphics
yeah, like
because
I think that like and that's the thing too, right? Is because like what like people have been playing Minecraft for like the last decade and a half, right? And so like
yeah,
and so I think that like
that's not a pretty game.
yeah, so I think when you get to the I think we're at the point now because I have said that like there's gonna be a point where because I think that games can only look so good, right? And then like at a certain point, games can only look so good. Like we're gonna hit a plateau somewhere, right? And I think that focusing efforts elsewhere outside of like trying as hard as you can to make this game look awesome, but instead like just make the game as fun as possible.
Yeah, like mechanically sound and
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. So I
Or
think
if it's not mechanically sound, make all the bugs fun.
yeah, yeah. But like it's cool. It's like I've been playing it solo, but apparently it's got like it's got multiplayer. You know, people can play together, and it's got some kind of PvP system in it. So I don't know. It's a neat little game, and it only cost me like $13. So
Nice.
and apparently like the game was made by like 5 people, and they've sold like 3 million copies. So like now they're
Fuck yeah.
yeah.
I
So
love when I hear little teams doing big shit.
yeah, like I hadn't heard of the game before a couple of weeks ago, and then like one day like I heard one person mentioned it, and then like the following week, like it was all the people were talking about. So it's a neat game, and I'm definitely interested in putting more time into it. But yeah, that's been me. What about you?
Yeah, I asked earlier, but I saw that there was going to be a Monster Hunter like direct thing today. Did you happen to watch it?
I didn't. So I don't know. I'm so dumb about shit like this because like I try to like if there's a thing that I'm looking forward to, then I'm just like I want to be surprised by everything when that thing comes out. And so like when people are talking about the direct, I'm like, no, I didn't watch it because I'm still a consumer who enjoys being surprised by the products that I buy. So um,
I mean, do you, boo?
yeah,
We've talked a lot about informed buying, but
yeah.
okay.
Well, like but
I mean, to be fair, I also didn't watch it. I mean, I made time to watch that Oprah, like Harry and Meghan interview, but I did not watch
yeah, that
that.
sounds like time well spent.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but as far as me though, this week, playing the same things I've normally been playing, like lately, like Fire Emblem, uh, Codex Realize, um, trying to stay away from Outlanders.
I almost downloaded that last week, but then I got really busy at work and decided against it.
Good. So like I've been reading a little bit more this week, and uh, more than I usually do, and with like a couple books that I've kind of like put down and like picked up. Um, and I was like in some re like reading like subreddit groups that I'm in, and somebody brought up the point of like that some people, they reread the same book over and over again
Yeah.
because they love it, but also because like when you have like if you are a very anxious person or if you are feeling anxiety like that, like what happens in the story, and it's a type of like medium where or like hobby where you can feel more grounded because of that. And it really got me thinking to like how I play video games in particular.
Yeah.
Because I do tend to, if I stick to one, I tend to like get really into it, and then like I just replay it forever. And yeah, so I don't know. I've been like replaying my games and kind of been thinking about them with that, but I've been rereading like three books. And or not rereading. I've been reading three books that I've been trying to get on, and then I also have been really caught up in Pennyworth,
Okay.
and I just binged it. It is
Is that the?
on Epics,
Yeah, I
and
think I
it
heard about
is
that. The show about Alfred.
the yes, it is so good. Somebody told me that they don't like superhero stuff, loved it, and I was like,
Yeah.
I've never heard of this. Let me give it a try. Started an Epic 7-day trial, and then binged the hell out of it, and it's so
So what
good.
is it like? Is it like a prequel?
So, it's kind of like so it is like a prequel in some senses. But it's kind of like Gotham, where it's like about Batman universe, but like there's no like direct comic book correlation. There's like things picked from there, and then there's also just TV things added. There's no real like time, and so a lot of the technology isn't really consistent. Like you have these 1950s cars, but like this one person has a cell phone and they
Yeah.
use it. Like, and that happens in Gotham. That does not happen nearly as much as inconsistency technology wise. But yeah, but it's about Alfred. Goes into some of like his war stuff. Him and Thomas Wayne meet. It's very much based off of British spy movies and TV shows.
Right.
So, and you can see the influence. And there's some things that are just so super silly, like because it fits that trope, and they like harp on it. Like there's a part where he's like coming from a burning building and holding the queen, and he's just like, oh, and it's just like exploding around him, but like everybody else died, and
That sounds fun.
like so like it had like that moment, but like where it's just like these things, but it's also just really good and well written, and I love it. So essentially, I mean, it's in the first episode, but essentially there's like you're in England and sometime before. and there is like the British government, and then there is these No Name League, and then the Raven Society. And Raven Society is very staunch, like conservative, and then like the No Name League, they like are very like liberal, and that's whole thing going on. But like that just sets the stage. Like Thomas Wayne shows up. Martha, she's at Kane at this point because she isn't married, or like that shows up. Like they haven't gotten together. Like it's all just very like spy intrigue stuff going on, but also like you see Alfred be pretty brutal and badass.
Cool. I like that. Um,
Yeah, no, would highly recommend. So I binged that, and then and then um, yeah, I haven't been playing that many video games this week.
um, it's funny that you said something about like about people who read the same books over and over. Because I think about how many times I've watched The Office, and like I think about like, well, I know what's gonna happen, but like that's why this is like that's why it's a comfort show, and like
Yeah, and like I know these things, but having it spelled out in a different perspective
yeah,
sometimes is like eye-opening in the
yeah,
way that you consume the media that you're doing. Like
yeah,
you're,
yeah.
yeah.
And like my wife has friends who like she has a friend who like he buys new games all the time, but he's still like even after buying those games, she'll just go back and beat God of War for the 30th time, just because like he likes it that much, I guess.
It
Um,
was a good, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, there's something to be said about that. And it kind of like also leads a little bit into our topic today, which is like, are video games still fun?
yeah,
And yeah, I think, and I try to think about like the games that I tend to like stick with like super hard on a franchise or like the game itself and keep replaying it. And like yeah, like the Kingdom Hearts games. Like I know that Sora isn't gonna die. I
yeah,
know that Mickey and all the beloved Disney people aren't gonna die. Like I know how to play those games because they're made for babies. I do love the Final Fantasy series as a whole. And they're generally pretty similar. There are like deviants here and there. Um, but like I still find a lot of fun and joy in that comfort. Like I like maybe it isn't like the most fun like I do when I play like Zombie Army, or like I've been playing me and Sean are gonna play Halo sometime this week. And like I have with that, that's like that even though like I haven't played all those Halo games, so that is something new for me, and I have fun like doing that and finding new things. But like I have a lot of fun in like comfort playing.
yeah, for sure. Um, so I think about it like this. Um, I've had this conversation a few times over the last month or so, but I was thinking about how I've been playing video games for about 30 years now. And in that time, there was never a period where I just didn't feel like playing video games. Like, I've been playing them most days of my life, every day for 30 years. And, and I think about what still compels me to play them after such a long period of time. And and I think about like even though I'm playing video games every day, I'm not always actively having a good time while playing video games. Like I'm like sometimes I'm playing a game because I need something to do, like to occupy myself, right? But like it's not something that like I'm engaged with or particularly enjoying at that moment in time.
Or getting any sort of satisfaction or happiness or anything like
Yeah.
positive out of it.
And I think that like and so like while I find myself always kind of gravitating toward that activity, like I feel like I'm like there are times where I'm just playing video games just because like I know that's what I do, right? And
That
uh,
is default Ryan.
yeah, that's my default mode, right? And like and it's even to the point where like it's even at like where like if I'm watching a TV show or watching a movie or something, then I'll find a device with a separate screen so that I can play a video game while I'm doing that thing, or vice versa, right? Because like I think of times where I would be playing World of Warcraft or Elite Dangerous or Final Fantasy 14, and while I'm playing those games, I'm consuming like a separate media, right? Like I remember, like, God, 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I went, I was playing Final Fantasy 14, and I watched all of HBO's The Wire while playing that game. Like I had my phone set up in front of me while I played the game, right? And so like it's funny because like I want to watch The Wire, but I'm playing this video game to give me something to do while I watch The Wire, right? And so I think about like, do I still actively have fun playing video games, or do I continue to play video games because that's just what I do? And I think it's kind of both.
Uh, yeah, but I also like when you're used to a certain amount of like stimuli in your life, which like playing video games, if you are playing a new game or something that like takes like your focus, like you can get into it and like you have trained your brain to like focus and stuff like that because of like repeated performances.
Right.
And so like I do think that there's times like yes, because of that, because you have now ingrained those muscle memories, like especially game like RPG like MMOs
Yeah.
where it's so tedious most of the time.
Yeah.
That's the word of the podcast apparently. Like yeah, you can watch it because even even things like TV shows and movies that I really want to watch, like Pennyworth, I was just going on about. I am watching that, and I quite often have to put down my Switch because I'm doing some like Fire Emblem stuff that I've done like a billion times. And I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, no, I want to actually see this.
Yeah.
I and I mean it's ADD times 11, whatever you want to call it. Like as far as that goes, but like I do also like double screen it up, two different things,
Yeah.
multitask all the time, and I don't necessarily think that it's like nec- it's not because I'm not having fun. It's because my brain is just wants like more.
Yeah.
And it is a skill to like turn that off and like to focus on the thing that's in front of you. And I don't think that it's necessarily like you aren't having fun playing games because you're watching The Wire or like the default. I do think it's just like MMOs so much dead time or
Sure.
times doing the just clicking the same thing for about 4 hours.
Yeah.
So like those I feel like they make it easy. Like I anything like anything like QuickTime or like where you can pause it and stuff. Like also I like there are certain like games I have on my phone specifically for like when I want to binge something.
Yeah.
Like I'll play those games while I binge just because like I need to do like something. I don't put effort into the skill and focusing on one thing.
Yeah.
But I mean even then though like we talk about comfort on that and I'm like I don't really think that that's fun. Is I don't know if that's necessarily fun either. I mean I say it is because that's what I've been thinking about since you like brought up the topic. And I don't know. It's hard to define exact. I mean, it's hard to define exactly what's fun, especially as an adult.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I so one of the things that has kind of that has kind of sort of kept me ruminating on this for a while is I think back to when I was a kid and how few choices I had, relatively speaking, as far as what video games I was going to play at a given time. Because the amount of games that I would come into possession of was 100% reliant on however much money my mom gave me to buy the game. So I would have to find a way to stretch games out for months and months and months and months, right? Um, but I think about now, where I can buy my own games, and there are times where I look at the video games that I have uh, and I'm just like, man, I can't figure out what I want to play. I can't like what game do I want to play? And I'll go into this game and I'm like, no, I'm not feeling it. I'll go into this game, no, I'm not feeling it. But the only thing that I know is while I'm not being grabbed by any of the games that I'm trying, I know that I want to play a video game right then and there. I want to play a video game in that moment. Um, and so I think about like then my mind in those times my mind drifts off to, well, let me look at the store and see what's there. And then that turns into, okay, well, like what do I want? Because I played so many different kinds of games, like what do I want? Right? And so I think about like what do I want out of a game, and what do I want that I think can give me enjoyment over a long period of time. And there was a point where what I wanted was like a huge space game that I could just throw myself into. That's what I wanted, right? And then I spent literally months in search of a very specific space game that I could just engross myself in. And it was always just like every time I thought I found it, that wasn't it, right? And then I would go back to the games that I have and to think about how much I want that game. And I think that what drives me the most is my love for the medium as a whole. I think because in the last few months, one of the things that like I find myself doing, which is not something that I've done since I was a kid, one of the things I find myself doing is kind of I'm daydreaming about games again. I'm finding myself like I never it is since I was a kid I have not put myself in the role of the protagonist, right? And like or like absorbed their exploits as my own in a way that I fantasize with in my brain.
The space explorer.
Yeah, and it's and like I started thinking I think to myself about how long it's been since I've done that, and I wonder is this the first time that I'm truly like really like having fun with my games at this point? Because like I'm actually thinking about like I'll be sitting here like I'm watching like a movie or watching TV or something, and I'm thinking about like man I'm gonna get back to that game because I feel cool when I'm like for like with Persona 5, right? Like I feel cool like I'm gonna go into the palace and I'm still the treasure, and
I'm gonna hang over Yuji, my
yeah,
boy.
yeah, and it's just like I find myself like daydreaming about that and like thinking about that in that term, not like I'm gonna turn this game on, I'm gonna play it, and I'm gonna go to bed. I'm thinking about like the adventure that I'm gonna have, and it's something that like I said I haven't done since I was much younger, and I'm wondering like is this me finding the fun in video games again? Um, that's because
I
that's what it feels
wonder.
like.
Yeah. Well, also like Persona 5 is great. Well, Persona 5 Vanilla is like great. I also have been like since we talked about last week, I can pull up some of my tabs right now like on my phone are like looking at different Persona stuff
Yeah.
and looking at the differences between Royal and like regular 5. I'm just like, yeah. But also like do you think that some of it has to do with the fact that you are using a guide? Because I also was thinking about that too.
Mm,
The times that I have used a guide and like had fun with it and like kind of like goes back to the anxiety thing, just kind of like like well like just like what if perspectives like is this the reason why? And I think that like that also like sometimes I do have a lot more fun with the guide because I know it's going to happen so I can just enjoy the ride.
yeah. Yeah, and so like I think
Or like I know where I need to go. I don't have to like I can just enjoy what's happening without like having to like well, what do I need to do? Like what's
yeah.
that there?
Yeah. So, my feeling, my thinking about guides has changed substantially, like since starting to using this guide for Royal, because like I feel like now like there are games that I can really feel like I can start like enjoying, like in a real like substantial way that I wasn't able to before. And I think so. Like you brought up with me using a guide for Royal, like it's like every single day was just like, well, I could do this, or I could also do this, and but I'm gonna miss out on this, and like the idea of missing out on something because I chose to do something else was just like it was too much, and it took me forever to get like I think that if I weren't using a guide right
It
now, I think that I wouldn't. I think I would still be on like the second palace right now.
And honestly, like that feeling whenever like you do find out info, where like, oh shit, like I could have done all these things, or I'm like, oh, like, or later I find I'm like, oh, like I'm a fourth of the game or a third of the way through my game, and like specifically Persona.
Yeah,
I think I restarted it the first time I tried to play it because then I found out about like what these things are, and that's honestly what drove me to like A, love it as much, and B, do New Game Plus is looking at other guides after I'd finish it or when I was really close
yeah,
and being like, shit, I could do all these things.
yeah,
So like being excited and going into it, like I don't know, like I've used. I mean, I've talked before about how with the first Bravely Default game, like I tried to make a guide for that because but at that point like I had already read a lot of guides off and on for other games, and yeah, like the ones at like GameStop and other like stores that like had the pictures and were the official ones, of course they looked nice and were
yeah,
helpful. But I do genuinely love like especially those like long term like RPGs and stuff, like looking at the guides and seeing where I need to put my thought into and which things I can just ignore, and I don't get that like feeling of missing out or
yeah,
like that I'm an idiot.
yeah. And so like, and that's one of the things. Like I don't know. I for some reason before I thought that if I used a guide for a game, that was taking away from it, right? But like the way that using a guide has enhanced my enjoyment of Persona 5, I think about all these other games that I haven't played because they felt too overwhelming for me. Like I'm thinking about going back and I'm thinking about starting up Sekiro again, but using a guide. And they're like, okay, well now this guide will tell me like, do I need to grind at this section? And okay, and do I go to this area or go to this area? And so
Because it's still you doing it. You just
yeah,
like
like I still have to
I
do
want
the
the
shit.
guides that tell me like what to focus on, not necessarily like what to do per se, like in exact detail, but
Yeah,
just tell me generally what. Oh, that's this in this area, and I got to do this. Okay,
yeah,
I'll go do that. Like, don't tell me how. Like, I mean, if I can't beat the boss or whatever is there, maybe I'll go more into the guide and see how to beat it. But normally, I just like look at there, and that takes a lot of like the stress out of like a lot of video games for me.
yeah. Because like then I can just focus on enjoying it, right? And so that's I think one of the things that has been helping me and making me feel more empowered, especially like when we're talking about like larger games that take up like that are real time investment, right? Like the games that are over like I'm 90 hours into Persona 5 at this point. And
Yeah.
like so I'm thinking like and but it's been going so smoothly for me. Like it's not 90 hours of me trying to figure out what the fuck I'm doing. And so
Well,
I wonder like how much is it how many games have I been missing out on because I was just I was too overwhelmed to play them. Uh, and like
yeah.
I'm someone who enjoys Souls likes. I love Bloodborne. I've played through two of the three Dark Souls games without guides, but like I think about going back to each of those games. Like, well, let me play through with a guide and see what that's like. You know?
Yeah, like so I bought Birdo Dark Souls 2, and I also bought him the strategy guide that goes with it. Like he's not wasn't like a big strategy guide person, but I think he kept it as like a bathroom book. And
Yeah.
when he was playing the game and like going in there, he's like, because with like Dark Souls, it's not like linear. You can go to different areas. So that one was like su nice for him because then he could just like see what's around.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you know, I'm now I feel really good about the idea of using guides, whereas I felt before like it detracted from the enjoyment of it. But I what I found is that like I'm enjoying the story just as much, and not only but like and it's also because like I don't have this nagging feeling in the back of my head that I fucked something up
Or you're
like
missing something, or
like
or you skipped something.
yeah. And but to be fair, I have run into like my fair, I've run into some issues with that. Like I used a guide, I used another guide for the game, and it wasn't the guide wasn't very clear on certain things, and I ended up totally missing
Mm.
a. I totally ended up totally missing a thing in the game. So I was like, well, I want to get everything, so I guess I got to start over. But other than that, but like I think about like so I think like I'm looking at like Frontier Developments. These are the people who make Elite Dangerous. So they've been posting things about their new update that's coming out. They're starting alpha for the new update called Odyssey, which is the update that lets you get out of the ship and like actually walk around, which is something that we haven't been able to do in the 6 years that the game has been out. So that's really exciting. But like, what's exciting about it for me is I'm thinking like again, it goes back to me, daydreaming about video games again, where like I'm daydreaming about like all these things that I'm gonna do, like as like when I get out of my ship, I'm gonna be like
Because
exploring and excavating treasures and shit like that, and
because you've been really enjoying No Man's Sky more than most,
yeah,
and you've also like and you have put years into the Elite Dangerous. So let's
yeah,
not act like it's like if we're gonna like count how many hours. Let's not say it's days
about
or months.
however many days 850 hours is, yeah. Um,
uh, but honestly, like with that update, it sounds like it kind of meshes what you enjoy about No Man's Sky with the original space game in your heart.
yeah, so
And maybe not like obviously do everything that No Man's Sky can do. You would
yeah,
probably still enjoy it, but not to detract from it. But have more of those elements in another game that you like does sound really exciting.
yeah. So I think that like when I think about like, am I still having fun with video games? It's like my enjoyment of video games has kind of taken sort of like a meta layer to it because my enjoyment of the game is both because of the game and also outside of the game. And I'll give you an example. So, with No Man's Sky, right? Like I when they added like they added a storyline that really focuses on the nature of existence and exploration and the cost of discovery and shit like that. And I took that from the game, and then that led me to thinking a lot about that, like independently, like outside of playing the game. But then I go back, like after pondering those things, I go back into the game, and like these are the things that I'm cognizant of the entire time, and it pulls me in, even more. And I think that the reason why that's more of a thing for me now than it has been in years past is because I think that I'm just become more. I'm taking more introspection when it comes to video games at this point, and using and with engaging with that has made it so that I feel these experiences more directly, and in turn that has been enhancing my enjoyment of these games. And there was a period of time where I was just like, there's a period of time where like I was a little concerned. I guess I don't know if concerned is the right word, but um, I thought about like, well, like, am I playing these games because I want to, or am I playing video games because that's just something that Ryan has been doing for 30 years, and at this point, like, why stop? Um, and I wasn't sure what the answer was. Um,
It probably, I mean, it's definitely both because people like what they're good at. And if you've built your muscle memory for your brain and like your body and stuff to do certain tasks, there is just like, an extra dopamine hit for that.
yeah, yeah, um, and
Not that you can't enjoy anything else,
yeah,
but I feel like I don't feel like it's a negative thing to do things that's your default mode, like play video games, read a book,
yeah,
as long as it's not hurting yourself. I mean, my default is just doubt myself, which is a terrible thing to do. Uh, uh, but like yeah, as long as it's nothing like harmful, like
yeah,
if your default's meth, you probably should stop that.
yeah. It's not good. It's not good.
But if it's playing like Elite Dangerous, like just go do it.
Yeah,
Like as long as you're still getting those dopamine hits and it's not like I mean, I mean, if you have depression, anything you do is depression playing or depression doing anything
Yeah,
like that. I mean, don't, yeah, I guess like just don't ignore your base needs and
sure.
mental health needs and you're good.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm getting at with it.
So like how I don't I am so I think you and I have been playing video games for an equal percentage of each of our lives. I think like we've both been engaging with
Oh,
video
I
games
would,
since childhood.
I
Um,
mean, I would say like you've definitely, I mean, anybody who listens to this podcast knows like you and Tommy have definitely played a more variety of games. And even then, like the games that I have played, I have a shit memory and I'm a goldfish, so like half of them I forget until I replay them.
right.
Uh, but like, yeah, no, like I definitely have had times in my life, I mean, where I've gone like a year or two without really playing video games too terribly much. I don't think I've ever like just, I mean, I can't think of a time besides whenever I didn't, before I started working, where I played video games every single day for like a month. But, no, but I definitely feel like there's times where am I just doing these things because it's what I always do? And it's always like a worrisome thing. It's like, am I pushing myself? Am I actually like fulfilled by the actions that I'm doing? And I think that with video games being so vast and being like great, that I don't know. I just never have that fear for you with with you in video games.
Um, I think one of the points of validation for me in that respect is that and when I think about like I was telling my wife that like when like I was thinking about like how we have that PlayStation 5 coming, and I've said before like maybe a few years back that like new hardware is always exciting to me, but like a lot of the time, excuse me, a lot of the time when I'm saying that, I'm talking about like, I mean, yes, I'm talking about new consoles, but like more often it's new like gadgets and shit, like and but I was thinking about like how like man, getting one of those things and like I was like, oh man, there's these games that I can play. And getting excited about the games that I'm going to be able to play and the games that like I thought I was not going to be able to play and maybe missing out on for a specific period of time, and like getting to and being excited about what's next in like the next year or so, like
New possibilities are great.
yeah.
Having more options open to you is a very exciting thing.
Yeah, and like I think about like, well, if I weren't if video games weren't exciting to me anymore, then I might just it might be something that I'm not thinking about near constantly, right? And I think that like I think about how like even now at 36 years old that when I think of my weekend, like my week like I think like one of the things that I think about with my weekend is like, man, I'm gonna be able to play all these video games over the next 72 hours, and that's really awesome for me. And I think about like when when I think about like a vacation, a lot of times when people like talk about vacation, they're like, well, I want to go travel to this place or that place. But like for me, it's like relaxing at home and playing as many video games as I want. And like
Staycation.
yeah, and the idea of playing video games is still very exciting to me. And I think that what it comes down to is that it's not that video games aren't fun to me anymore. It's that I don't feel like people have been making video games that are fun to me. Um,
Video game fatigue, which is a real thing. I mean, uh, I mean, just when you have so many options, because
yeah,
like when you are a kid, you are like limited. So and also it's just like more exciting because it's new. Like these games that you're playing, you have built up such a mental repertoire of like and catalog of games that you have played, touched, or like seen played, or like have some sort of interaction with. That all these like new games, when you look at the store and browse, like you have something to reference it to. So it isn't as exciting
yeah,
because it's something that you know or maybe you already own.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So like I look at something, I'm like, well, that's a familiar concept. Like I can look at that and I could reference this like, oh yeah, I played this game, which just seems like that's what this is. And yeah, so and I think that's one of the things that like is most exciting to me at this point when it comes to video games. Like when someone gives me like a new concept or something that makes it feel refreshing, or like a new configuration of existing concepts that makes it feel refreshing. That's exciting to me,
And,
right?
and yeah, and that's it. And like I'm not gonna like put words in Tom's mouth, but like a lot of times when I say something is a Tom ass game, or like you say something's like a Tommy ass game, like it is because he is constantly looking. It seems like he's constantly looking for like games that have something different about them,
Yeah,
and and he has such like a mental catalog of them. Of course, it has to be different to be impressive to him.
yeah,
So like things like, Subsystem Circular, Near Automata, like like there's not like even though I probably necessarily wouldn't have been drawn to the Subsurface Circular like icon picture, I can't think of any other games, and I've played a lot of visual novel games that work necessarily the same way that it does, nor hits the points that it does.
yeah. So and I think that there's like a lot to get out of that. I think that when you actively seek out games like that, you probably get a bigger net return on your investment when it comes to maybe not necessarily gameplay value, but like when it comes to, well, I'm experiencing new things that I haven't experienced before. I feel like you get a bigger net return on your investment for that, as opposed to, well, I just got done playing Devil May Cry, so I'm gonna go play some Bayonetta. And like I'm not saying that those two games are the same, but I feel
But
like,
they are similar.
yeah, like I mean,
Obviously so. They are very similar.
right. So
And
their genres are established based on things within those genres sharing familiar traits. So I like there are characteristics of Bayonetta that I can find in Devil May Cry and vice versa. And so the concepts of each are familiar to me because of the other. But
and also like or someone like me, like I don't know, it takes a lot for me to like want to venture out a lot of like my comfort zone when it comes to games. Obviously, I will, but like if it's me buying my own games, I'm gonna buy comfort games for the most part. Every now and then I may like stumble upon accidentally something with a different like gameplay, but I'm normally not purposely looking for that, or it's in a series that I already like.
yeah,
I don't know, I don't like I not that I don't want to be adventurous per se, but like I don't necessarily get the same like thrill from it that I and that goes like with most of the content or hobbies that I have.
yeah, yeah, and so I think about like long running series of video games, right? Um, and when I think about that, like the one that comes to mind initially always is Final Fantasy. And I think that for a very long time, Final Fantasy games have followed a similar format. Like each time, different games would introduce different like mechanics within the game, like or different activities within the game. But but in my experience, at their core, they involved running around an overworld and then fighting guys with a menu-based combat system, right? And then I think about like,
Like
go ahead.
there's also like the so when I think of like the Final Fantasy franchise, I'm not thinking about just the numbered games. Obviously but even with those, there's the MMOs. I'm also
Yeah,
thinking like the Final Fantasy Theater, that rhythm
yeah,
one, Final Fantasy Tactics, like anything that has the Final Fantasy name. Normally, I will give a second look to
yeah,
because I know their work. I know I've enjoyed the other things. And I don't, and I have that security there where I feel like I'm going to enjoy it more because I know that I like these things. Of course, everybody has been disappointed, not necessarily with Final Fantasy, but like with that kind of like choices with your games or movies or whatever. But like, I don't know, it just my brain don't doesn't want to work a lot.
yeah.
I just want that comfort.
Like I think about like so the two Final Fantasies that stick out in my mind the most a lot of the time are 12 and 15, specifically because of the numbered games. I feel like when we're talking about combat and exploration, those two feel the most different to me. And with a franchise that's as long running as that one, I just feel like that's I just feel like that's a new concept as far as like if your sphere of influence as far as video games is concerned is confined specifically to Final Fantasy, then having these two things that are new and different, I feel like that's more intriguing to me. But I think that also on the flip side, it's like, well, when you enter these, when you change things up so much, well, this isn't Final Fantasy. This isn't what I want.
On there.
That's not
Yeah,
it's not the
it's
same. Well, you're supposed to make it the same. So
well, we've talked about with other games, like, reboots or like a new edition, and people want more of the same, but also want something different.
yeah.
Can't please everybody. But I do feel like any, of course, people did not, a lot of people did not like 14, 13.
Well,
Uh,
yeah. Well, initially nobody liked the 14, and they had to fix it. But people shit on 13 for reasons that I don't quite understand. Um, I don't really get it.
uh,
Like I know that there's a linearity to it that isn't across other Final Fantasy games, but Lightning is pink-haired Cloud, so
yeah, no, so yeah, 13. So like, uh, yet again, goldfish memory, but yeah, no, so 13, and then the 13 returns or whatever,
yeah,
or lightning returns or
yeah.
whatever. But
She
yeah,
comes back.
I know people shit on that because of the linearity and stuff like that. And also people did shit on the MMO. But I tend to be the people who first played the first MMO is
Yeah.
like where I've heard a lot of that complaints from. And I guess fair. Y'all are the crowd that would know it best.
Hmm.
Uh, like even with that though, and then doing something different. Like I know like people are like, oh well, like linear isn't a good different when you go from open world, but I don't think. But it opened up, and I don't know. I do think that they have done different things throughout it, but I think that they've kept it obviously the same enough to where, as I would say, as a whole, it's a good franchise.
Sure, sure. I just think that like introducing new concepts to something is a good way to keep it at the very least interesting. And it might and like I'm not saying that you're gonna like everybody has to like it, but I think that like the way that I'm wired is I'm very receptive to established franchises doing something different if it means that if the possible end result is that it will re it'll reinvigorate my interest in that property. Um,
Of
which
course, it's subjective, but I
yeah,
mean, but it makes sense if you're saying it from like your perspective, obviously.
yeah. So and like I said, obviously not everybody's gonna like the shit that I like. That's just the way it works. But
People should like the shit that you like.
yeah, honestly, I I've gotten to the point where like I stopped giving a shit about whether or not people like what I like, because
No, you
really
should go fight some people online. You should go fight some
I
people
don't
online over it.
I don't know where people find the time for that shit. Like I was just I like about an hour
They
before.
don't play games.
Well, like about an hour before the show, right? Like I was on Facebook and somebody had posted something about the Snyder cut of Justice League, right? And there's just people in the thread going back and forth about
Bless
how
you.
there's just people going back and forth in the thread about how much they about I love Zack Snyder, I hate Zack Snyder, and they're arguing about why Zack Snyder sucks or why Zack Snyder doesn't suck, and it's like, where do you guys find the fucking time? Like it doesn't change
I,
anything, you know?
I,
So
and even then, that movie was not a good movie. I do not see how more hours or the Snyder Cut is going to polish that into a good movie.
yeah, but even
I love the DC, but even then, but regardless of my own opinion, like if you're having fun conversation in those things, because sometimes I do see where if you see people are like, just like arguing, but I do see like the heated ones. I don't know if that thread was like a heated one where people are just being like stupid about it, but I do think that there's something very fun about like arguing different points.
well, it's like
I mean, podcast stuff.
well, like you can very much tell when someone is trying to change your opinion about something, right? And like if you like something, you can very much tell when that person is trying to get you to not like it anymore. Um,
Oh, yeah, my brother, after like episode 5 of WandaVision, said that he did not like it.
mhm.
And I was like up to episode 8 out. And I was like, no, brother, like you have to like it. It's so good. I'm definitely the opposite. I'm like, no, it's good. Be hype.
Yeah, well, and no, and there was a time where I think I was like that too, but then I got to the point where I was like, I mean, whether they like it or not, like, I don't, I don't care. You know, like I like it, so then that's enough for me. I don't need them to like it for me to be entertained by it. So
Well, I want people to like who like it that I can talk to in my life. I mean, Facebook and online fights are dumb,
yeah,
unless like you're bringing something new to the table in the discussion. But in real life, nah. I want
yeah,
if I like something, I want other people to be around me to be hype. I want to be surrounded by nothing but hype,
sure. Um,
and I will make that happen.
I mean, eventually, maybe Shanae, maybe we'll like something that each other likes. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, did you watch WandaVision?
I don't have Disney Plus, friend. So,
Oh, we'll talk about that after the show.
but you know what's funny though is that like I've never seen an episode of WandaVision, but I heard about Vision wearing a turtleneck in an episode, and then Black Twitter went fucking nuts, memeing him for wearing that turtleneck, and like knowing nothing about like WandaVision or what happened on that show, like those memes have been making me laugh really hard. So
Oh man, since the finale just happened, there's been some really, really good memes. It's been a good day it's been a good week in meme land.
yeah, um,
But yeah, but as far as this topic goes, um, do you have any closing thoughts?
yeah. Do what you enjoy until you no longer enjoy it, and then find something else to like.
So
That's
y'all
it.
hear folks. It's now the law of the land. Video games are fun.
Yeah. I've
Um,
decided that video games are fun, so you're allowed to like them now.
Yeah, no, you don't have to pretend anymore.
Yeah.
No one's gonna make fun of you or call you a nerd. If so, send them my way. Send them Ryan's
Well,
way.
here's the thing: is
I
that
will
like
take.
nobody gives a shit.
I will take.
No one gives a shit about
Good.
being called a nerd anymore. Everybody thinks it's cool now. Everybody thinks it's cool to be called a nerd now. So like nobody gives a shit. But
So you're saying,
I'm gonna turn nerd back into an insult that people hate. I'm gonna make it happen.
yeah, I'm gonna start like pantsing you and Tom and just yell nerd as I do it.
I can promise you that will end badly for you.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, it's a good
Because
thing.
you got real long hair, Shanae, and I imagine that would lend itself really well to a swirly. So
I had to get all my hair chopped off. What happened? I middle school. I came back. I like and Tom's toilet is just like entire rat's tail hanging out of the
yeah,
toilet.
yeah. So I haven't
All
met
right, actually down.
I haven't met a toilet yet that I want my head inside of. So
But yeah, you can find us on most podcast apps such as like Podomatic, Stitcher, Google Play, iTunes. We're on YouTube if you want to see beautiful faces. We have a Discord, we have an Instagram, and we love it. Bye, guys.
bye, guys.